Welcome, guys. Welcome. Today, I'm gonna be giving my thoughts on what's been going on in Ukraine and Russia. And what's been going on is something I kind of expected. I kind of didn't. I thought the whole thing was gonna resolve itself on itself, but apparently, yesterday Russia entered in Ukraine. They put troops in two regions that have been, wildly televised about in the past few years, called Luhansk and Donetsk. Uh, those sectors were in a civil war within Russia for give or take 8 years now, and they were supported, of course, by the Russians. And what you see here, the blue territory, is the one that's controlled by the separatists, and those are the sectors, the de jure sectors of Donetsk and Luhansk. So this is controlled by Ukraine, the gray, and the blue is by the separatists. And yesterday, Putin entered troops on technically Ukrainian soil. Now it hasn't been Ukrainian soil de facto since 2014 because civil war, and it has been in the hands of separatists. And what Putin did was he recognized the republics. He hasn't absorbed them yet in Russia, but that's where things are going at least. And things are going. This is very dangerous to me because what's gonna happen? You know, this is Donetsk and Luhansk and Donetsk, and it's you know things are going badly, man. I mean, Biden's announcing new sanctions on Russia, and the problem becomes no, now nobody can back down because they're gonna seem weak, especially if things continue to escalate to the point where even if the countries Russia and maybe the EU and America wants to back down, they're like, guys, this is we're posturing a lot, but this is getting way too serious here for freaking Ukraine. You can't back down now because humiliation, the way it's going to seem on the national stage, and the economy of Russia, which isn't doing very well. 1.4, 1.7 trillion is a pathetic number. I think it's the 12th economy in the world, which is, I mean, it's Russia. It's just, and Germany suspends the Nord Stream 2 gas pipeline, which is in some ways expected, in other ways, um, I didn't see this coming. I mean, it was on the books. It wasn't like I was blown away by it, but I didn't see it coming right away. And then, of course, this is the amount of import that is the amount of resources that are supplied to the EU in 2020 in terms of petrol and gas and fossil fuels. This is insane. So 43% in 2020 when it comes to oil and petrol and gas was supplied to the European Union by Russia. 43%, and the first semester of 2021, 47%. So now you're gonna cut off the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. Where's that gonna end? Yes, it's gonna cripple in many ways the only resource that Russia has to sell abroad that's valuable, which is in this case oil and gas. But it's also gonna hit Germany especially, but in many cases the whole of Europe in in a very very hard manner. The consequences of that hit, economically speaking, and not only economically but politically, we'll see. Will this mean that there will be a sort of resurgence and a complete 180 when it comes to German politics regarding nuclear energy, which they've just completely decoupled themselves quite recently when it comes to the nuclear energy sector in Germany. They completely eliminated it, which, in my case, from my 2 cents, it's a very emotional. It's a very emotional take on the matter. I think it's very short-sighted. extremely short-sighted because from the literature, from what I understand, nuclear energy is so much better than any other energy in the world, and I understand why there's a lot of reticence regarding it because of the nuclear bombs and of the nuclear accidents that happened in Tokyo, quite well in Japan and in Ukraine. But you know, you have to understand that those plants were 10, 20, 30 years old when they exploded, and you know, if you have newer plants, more updated ones, the risk for exposure and eventual collapse are close to nil, from what I understand. Now, where to recapitulate where are things going here, I have no idea. You know, now right now, Donetsk and Luhansk are getting supplied, and basically Russian troops are entering into those provinces. This could get really ugly, especially. I don't know if you guys have followed the way the West, especially here in the U.S. Well, I'm not from the U.S., but you get my point. Um, the way they're portrayed the whole conflict, and it's so. I cannot see the logic in it, truly, uh, when it comes to their rhetoric, because it doesn't make sense to antagonize. Like, I can understand a country, the media in the United States, to criticize, or not so much criticize, but galvanize the populace to go to war with weaker countries for, you know, whatever interests they have. Maybe they're ideological, maybe they're economical. You know, maybe they're companies that, you know, they run CNN, Fox, MSNBC, you name it. Maybe they have a weapons manufacturer that's a huge stakeholder, so they have to sort of, you know, push for war so that their stakeholder who owns XYZ amount of percentage would be able to, you know, get contracts and you name it. But you know, I understand them doing that when it comes to Venezuela, Afghanistan, Iraq. So I'm not justifying it. I'm not saying it's okay, but I can see logically. I can see it, how it goes. You're like, well, you know, maybe I want this to happen for whatever reason, and not that it's justifiable, but I can sort of understand if you have an alternative motive, ulterior motive either, rather. So I can understand where they're coming from when it comes to those kind of wars because their countries are weak. They're never gonna hit uh, the U.S. In terms of retaliation, truly ever. So you can do to them basically whatever you want. But Russia, I mean, it's playing around with countries that have thousands of nuclear weapons. No, no, even if the chance of them using them is like 0.1%, you don't want to play with that. It's just, it's not worth it. And what, we're going to risk, even if the risk is, as I said, 0.1, 0.5%, you're willing to risk a nuclear war over Ukraine, especially from the West. I don't understand that, especially as far away from Russia, as uh, in the US. I can understand that sort of rhetoric coming up from Europe because, as you can see from the map, they're much closer than the U.S. I mean, look at this. This isn't, you know, what business does the U.S. have in Ukraine? And I believe in many ways, the reason why um, Americans, especially the American media, has been sort of jumping down this subject so vehemently over the past few weeks is because of what occurred during the past 4 years under Russiagate and the Russian sort of propaganda, negative propaganda aimed at Americans. That the Russians, you know, they're manipulating our presidency, our campaigns. Look at them; they're horrible people. The government, you know, all that. And I'm not trying to justify anything. I'm just saying the rhetoric was very aggressive over the past few years, and at the end of the day, you know, we realized that all that rhetoric was fake, that there was no collusion at all, and it was all fabricated by. I mean, the schemes and the scandals. I mean, politics is quite a dirty business, but I don't know where things are going, to be honest, and I think I think it's very dangerous. It's gonna be interesting from an outsider point of view. I know it sounds horrible to say that, but it's gonna be for me. I want to see how things develop. Hopefully, not in a war, but we'll see. What I my predictions, my thoughts on the matter of what could happen is, as I stated in a prior video, Ukraine is divided basically in half when it comes to its ethnicity. The eastern half identifies as Russians, and they're ethnically Russians, and the western half is more cosmopolitan. It's more European. They consider themselves Ukrainian, and so worst case scenario, the country is divided in half, and you have a new country emerge. In this case, Western Ukraine. Now, am I saying that's plausible? I don't know. If you asked me 3 months ago, is it plausible for for things to escalate like they have until now? I would have said outright no, because Russia is. I cannot truly understand what's their final objective, because I doubt they're gonna stop at Donetsk and Luhansk, because the cost for what they're doing doesn't doesn't equate Donetsk and Luhansk in terms of territory. The amount of internationally, the in terms of PR, Russia hasn't been doing well for quite a while, and this isn't helping. So, for all that sort of cost that they're just losing in terms of PR, in terms of respect, in terms of, I don't know how it's gonna end. To be quite honest, hopefully peace. We'll see. Tell me guys what you think. Did you like my analysis? Want to see more? Give me your thoughts, and I'll see you guys next time. See you guys.